welcome to Elements of Ayurveda, Empowering Wisdom of Life. I'm your host, Colette, and in this podcast, I hope to empower you to take charge of your own health by sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, the ancient healing tradition from India. We will also discuss topics like health and wellness, nutrition, yoga, fitness, meditation, breath work, and much more, as well as interviewing lots of inspiring people along the way. My humble wish is to help you to connect to your true nature, to Mother Nature, and to each other. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe to the show, and the new episodes will automatically download for you to enjoy. If you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend you listen to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. I've also set up a Facebook group for us to connect and to support each other, and I'd love for you to join me over at Elements of Ayurveda podcast group. And now, here's the show. Hello, and welcome to Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I am here with Amy today. Hi, Amy.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, as always. And Amy actually chose the topic for today's show. We discuss them frequently between us, what we'd like to do. And oftentimes it's something that's coming up in our lives. So, Amy, do you want to tell us about today's topic and the story behind why you chose it to discuss today?
I would love to. As many of you know, I'm a yoga therapist. And in my other life, I have a master's degree in health promotion that deals with health behavior change, and my PhD is in educational psychology, which also deals with a lot of health behavior change. And so academically or intellectually, I know a lot about health behavior change. And I think when we're working with ourselves or with our clients, you know, this idea of compliance, and even though you know it intellectually, how do you actually get yourself to manifest proper health choices is the name of the game, right?
Absolutely.
Of course, we educate people and we hope they'll follow, you know, our guidelines, but even people with severe diabetes just cannot get themselves to follow the proper diet. So I think it goes beyond intellectual capacity to understand health behavior change. I think something has to shift deep within us to actually make a health behavior change. And so many of you know from my Facebook feed and from my Instagram, I just got back from Japan. And I was there about 2.5 weeks, and I had a fabulous time. It was one of the highlights of my career and my life. But something happened to me over there around health behavior change that I wanted to tell you about, because I think it really illuminates what I'm saying is that health behavior change is not intellectual. It is something much deeper. So for many years, I have loved sweets since I was a little girl. I mean, we're talking, I was, 7 years old, and my father was a minister. And every time there'd be a wedding at the church, I would get so happy because, this happened almost every weekend, because I knew there was going to be white cake. And I loved white wedding cake. And so the first thing I can remember about my childhood is loving white wedding cake and loving sweets. And I've just always loved them. And I've been active enough that I could manage it through activity. But as I've gotten closer to 50 years old, it's not possible to continue to eat sweets like that and manage your weight and stay in control of your body. And I've had a really hard time cutting those out and not feeling deprived. And, then I'll keep myself from eating them for 3 weeks, but then I'll jump right back in and do it again. And it's one of those things where intellectually I know that I don't want to have a sweet every single day. And yet somehow most days I end up having a sweet. So when I went to Japan, I was just shocked when for 2.5 weeks I didn't crave a sweet. I didn't think about any sweets. My body didn't want them. I mean, even when I looked at them, I was like, that doesn't even look that great. And so I started thinking, like, what is going on over here? And what I've come to and what I'd like to share with you today is that I think in our daily lives, we have very, very deep samskaras, habitual patterns, and that's mentally and physically and emotionally. We have these deep patterns, and when stress happens or we get into contact with certain people, we kind of get triggered into our habitual response. So, for example, when I work 8 hours of lecturing, my habitual response is, I deserve a reward and I need to have something sweet. Right. So when I went to Japan, my whole set of habitual patterns was turned upside down. I didn't have the stress that I do at home. I didn't have the same people that trigger me here at home. I didn't have the pathways to certain grocery stores that I do here at home. I had different foods available. None of my normal foods were available. I was eating with chopsticks. I was sitting on the floor for most meals, which meant that when you're sitting on the floor, you actually stop eating sooner because your belly is kind of scrunched over and you feel full. As opposed to sitting in a chair, I can just kind of sit up straighter and make a little more space and stuff myself. The variety of food, like every meal might have, 12 different tiny little bowls with one bite of different flavors in each bowl, which is so unique. At home, I might make an omelet, a 3-egg omelet, and that's a meal. Well, over there, I would eat 12 different flavors, a little bit of pungent, a little bit of astringent, a little bit. And they're all bite-sized, so you don't eat that much. If you had noodles, it was literally a quarter of a cup of noodles, which is something I would never eat at home, a quarter of a cup of noodles. But there were so many other flavors that it was fine. So I lost, for me, almost 8 pounds, 7 pounds, which is unheard of for me. And without trying, I didn't have cravings. I had all these new rituals around eating, and it occurred to me that I had a samskara reset in many, many different areas. And so that led me to this topic. Why I wanted to talk about health behavior change is I think if we're going to be serious about changing our health behaviors, we have to really think about transforming our environment, our triggers, transforming our relationships. So as we think about our health behavior change, whether that's going to the gym or wanting to transform, the way that you're eating or managing your stress, I really think we need to hit it from multiple angles and think about how do I change all these different samskaras in my life, not just, I want to eat 1,500 calories a day, and I want, 40% of that to be protein and 40% to be carbs and 20% to be fat. I mean, it just occurred to me that's ridiculous. If you can use an app like MyFitnessPal all day long and track all of that, and congratulations for entering all the data. But is it really going to permanently change how you are in relationship with your exercise plan, or how you are in relationship with the food that you choose to eat? So, since I've come back, you're going to think this is hilarious, but I wanted to keep some of the essence of what I experienced there. So I've started taking my showers sitting down. I have bought some Japanese shower shoes. I have chopsticks. I have now made a table. Instead of sitting at the regular table with the chairs, I am eating at my coffee table sitting on a bolster. I went out and bought a lot of different foods and flavors that I normally have. A bunch of tiny little bowls. And putting a bite in each of the bowls. And they're all beautiful, by the way. All the dishes over there are amazing. So I have my golden chopsticks with all, 12 different beautiful tiny little bowls on a tray of amazing different tastes that I normally wouldn't eat, like kimchi or, whatever it is. And that's how I'm choosing to eat.
That's great.
It's fantastic. And so that's what I'm saying is, how are we going to transform how we view the world and my stress levels? I'm really trying to figure out, like, okay, how do I not pack my life so full? So eating sugar, right? My blood,
yeah. The stress is huge, and I'm definitely going to talk about that a lot more. But I have one question before we go forward on your routines that you're bringing in. What's the significance of sitting down while showering?
Do you really want me to talk about that?
Maybe not. I don't.
I think you do. I really, intuitively you wanted to know.
Tell me.
This is for all out there. So, first of all, the Japanese are brilliant. Whoever thought of sitting down while showering, it's just so relaxing. It's like you're in a spa. You just sit there and soap your body up, and then you have a handheld, shower, and you're just on this little stool.
Okay.
And spray yourself off. It's just so relaxing. It's like it's a treat now. So, over there, there's shower, or they're, bathing. They call this bathing morning and night. And it's such a relaxing experience. I put some beautiful music on. I light a candle. I'm sitting up on the stool. But in most of the showers that I sat in over there was a mirror, which was about 3 feet by 4 feet or 2 feet by 3 feet, at the level of me being seated.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I don't spend a lot of time looking at my body nude in a seated position. In fact, I don't know if I've ever seen my body nude in a seated position.
Right. Yeah.
I just got to tell you, it gives you a whole new perspective.
Right. I know. When you're seated and everything kind of rolls up. Yeah.
And I realized, wow, that's what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And very interesting.
It's twice a day a way for me to check in with, is this the body I'm comfortable in? Is this the body that's serving me to do my dharma?
Yep.
Is this the body that I feel in my full power when I'm, out in the world? And, I'm not going to say that it will change my body. Who knows? I leave that to, the gods.
Yeah.
But I can say, I think it's a beautiful way for me to become more aware of this sacred vessel that I need to take care of.
Yeah, your temple is the only body we ever have, and it really needs to be considered like this, like you said, a sacred vessel, our temple, and that we should take great pride in it.
And pay attention to it. I mean, I'm the type so hard, and my body has been such a beautiful, strong kapha body that I haven't really had to do much for my body. It just gets me through, and I've been fortunate to have good immunity and good health, and I rarely go to the doctor, and I have great sleep. However, as I'm aging, it's going to become more and more important for me to create good behaviors around taking care of it, because it's not going to continue to put up with my abuse.
Right, exactly. And it becomes a little bit more fragile as we get older. So we really need to nourish it a lot more as we get older. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I do totally agree with you that, our lives basically consist of a series of habits or routines or behavior patterns, whatever you want to call them. What time we wake up, our morning routine, what time or what we eat, our bedtime, if we do or don't exercise, who we hang out with. All this is a result of our habits, and we get into these patterns or samskars. And in order to shift them, I totally agree with you. I think there needs to be a reset, because a lot of times we'll say, okay, yes, I want to lose some weight, or I want to start going to bed earlier, or I want to eat, dinner at a certain time. And if all the other patterns are still the same, and nothing else is shifting, it can be very hard. It's like an uphill battle doing that. That's why I always recommend just doing a total reset. Like I always recommend the cleanse, complete reset of the body and the mind, and then build back up what you want. Yeah.
And what I like about what you just said is, in 2.5 weeks, my microbiome changed completely.
Right.
And they say with a reset, it can happen in 3 days or something crazy like that. That your microbiome literally can transform in just a matter of 72 hours. Wow. So once my microbiome got reset, now I'm not craving what I used to. And that's where your idea of a cleanse in the fall and in the spring is so important.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I usually like to start the clients, if they need it, with a cleanse to do a total reset, and then put them through the daily habits for holistic health course. Then once you're cleansed and once you have the clarity in your mind and you're feeling spacious in the body and your aches and pains are gone, that then we can start building up new habits to support your new strong, healthy foundation. So it's like, it's like in loading in a new software system. It's, we're just completely changing it.
And then once you load that in, because I've done Ayurvedic cleansing, once you load that in, getting really serious about not slipping back to the old patterns. That's what usually happens for me is I just, I can have a little of that, and I'll do this tomorrow. And next thing I know, I'm back to my old self. And that's where what I'm kind of offering is, hey, don't just reset your body, but reset your environment, reset your levels, reset your relationships. I mean, one of the things that happened when I got home from Japan is I was so happy to see my husband. We'd been apart. We were, joyful for a couple of days to just be so loving and kind. And then one morning he was in kind of a grumpy mood. And immediately I was like, he's grumpy, And what came up, but, I think I want, I want something sweet for breakfast.
Oh, interesting.
So it was like, okay, so there's the trigger. And then how am I not going to fall back into that now that I've done this job reset? Am I going to ask him to change his behavior? Am I going to change my perception about his mood? Am I going to ignore it? Am I going to say, that's nice, but I think I'll choose a healthy alternative anyway? There's a number of ways to deal with what our relationship and emotional triggers are.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about, building back up new patterns, and then also supporting yourself by making sure you have good options in place of that sweet breakfast that you want, that maybe it's a sweet herbal tea or something else that's going to satisfy you, but not cause that, the coffee increase with the sweet breakfast.
Right.
But I want to make a little bit more of a case because, we're talking about uploading a new software system. And I think, we used to believe before, and I have a feeling a lot of people still believe this. I don't think in our community, because I think our community and listeners are very, very aware and they do their research. But, we used to believe that our genes are inherited and that they turned on and off whenever they decided to do so, and we had no say in the matter. And the reason I want to talk about this today is because this has got everything to do with our habits, because it's all about epigenetics. Now, let me back up a little bit, that we know our DNA, right, is our blueprint, and it makes up the genes which carry the information. And these genes determine our unique physical attributes, our appearance, our health. And we inherit these genes from our parents. And although these genes cannot be altered, they can be influenced by epigenetics, which is basically a study of biological systems which switch the genes on and off. So certain circumstances in life can cause these genes to be silenced or expressed over time. So they can be turned off and become dormant, or turned on and become active. And the reason I'm saying all this with this conversation is because the expressions of genes is influenced by our experiences and the environment to produce individual differences in our behavior, in our personality, in our cognition, our mental health. So in short, our habits, our environment, and our perception of our environment controls our genes. So that's even more of a reason to change our patterns or change our samskara.
I completely agree. And, the ancient philosophers like Hobbes said, a lot of people didn't agree with Hobbes, but he basically said, look, you're a product of your environment. And if you don't change your environment, you're going to do the same thing you've always done.
Right.
Don't walk into a bar and think you're not going to drink. Don't sit around with a bunch of smokers and think you're not going to take the cigarette.
Right.
Right. Exactly. So the key to our health and well-being is in our own hands, and it is in our own habits or our behavior patterns. So it's really taking a look at what your patterns are and how they're affecting your health. Because, we used to believe, as I said, that, if our family has a history of heart disease or a history of cancer, a history of diabetes, that, I didn't win the gene lottery, I may get those diseases. But now we know that our habits can change the way these genes turn on and off. We can really influence these genes by having some good physical and mental habits, and also our perception of our environment as well.
It's amazing because things like cardiovascular exercise, weight training, meditation are now being shown to basically change your DNA, right? That the genes either express themselves more or they become dormant depending on your health choices.
Right.
So it's not that you're given this, map for life that's going to be that way. It's interesting to me because what if you get a map or a genetic code from your parents says you have a 75% chance of getting diabetes. You can fight like mad and exercise and keep your stress down and eat well and be in that 25% that doesn't get it.
Right. Exactly. So,
yeah. And I've always said my family has diabetes and heart disease. Oh, why do I have to watch my diet so closely? Right. Well, that's my genetic lottery. And that's going to be my task this life, is to really work hard on those health behavior changes. Whereas other ones are super easy for me. Right. I don't have to worry about them. And other people have to work hard on those.
Right. But the way those genes express themselves in your parents is not necessarily the way it's going to express in your body, given your environment, your circumstances, given your diet and lifestyle and your stress management, your mindfulness practices, etc. So that's what I want people to be aware of. Just because you have a family history of this does not mean that legacy needs to continue on down the line. And if scientists could map every single cause and effect of the different combinations of the genes, and we have over 20,000 genes in our body, and if we could reverse the gene state to keep the good while eliminating the bad, then we could theoretically cure cancer, slow aging, stop obesity, diabetes, and a lot more. There's a lot more research that needs to be done there. But in the meantime, we have the power and ability to take charge of our own health, and changing our habits or beliefs or behaviors can change our health. And like I said, installing that new operating system to ensure the body and mind is in balance, and therefore preventing disease in the body. So, I wanted to bring epigenetics up because I want to make this case that do away with that old belief system of we can't control our genes, and if my mother or father or if my grandparents had this, there's a likelihood I could have it. Get that out of the mind, and now that you can think that you are in control of your health by the choices that you make every day. So do you want to add anything else to that, Amy, before?
I do, because we have nature and nurture. Nature being our genetics, and nurture being that which we learned from our family. And you can't pull these two apart. Yes. They go hand in hand. But one of the things that I think is interesting is if you're born into a certain family or adopted by a certain family, you're very, very likely to adopt their practices around holidays, around what do we do on Sundays, around what do we eat on Friday nights? We order pizza, And so making those lifestyle choices to be different and take a different path from our parents is actually much harder than you might think, because it's so intertwined with love and connection and community. And when you turn into a vegetarian and your whole family is, birds, and every time you go home, they're like, "Oh, doesn't have some fish."
I'm laughing, because I became vegetarian at 15, and every time I went home, my mother was like, "Colette, will you have some sausages for breakfast?" I was like, "No."
Here, have some pork. And it really is deeper, as I'm saying. It's not an intellectual thing.
Yes.
You really have to change your environment. You have to change your relationships, and even your perspective.
Right.
I mean, how do you still engage in meaningful, loving holiday season as a vegan with, a bunch of, big meat eaters? How do you not make them feel ashamed? How do you not make them think you're, judging them? It's deep.
It is deep because our epigenetic influence starts even before conception, really, because our parents' diet, our parents' mental health, the environment they live or work in has a huge, epigenetic influence on the development of the embryo. So it goes back to even before we were even conceived. And, obviously we don't have control over our early years, but I do think if the desire is there to change, that it can be done in a compassionate way and a loving way, and that, that you get people on board. They don't necessarily have to join you in the changes, but that they understand it's for your health and well-being. So that when I say, for example, if I'm doing a consult with a client and we're discussing about changes to make, and they're a little bit concerned about how their significant other or their family will react, or, I say, well, perhaps sitting down, having chat with them and letting them know how important this is for your health and well-being, and just explaining to people, because maybe they don't understand the significance of it for your health.
And asking for their support.
Yeah.
Communicating it in a way that, hey, this is about me and my needs. It's you are you, and you get to make your choices, and I'm not putting down your choices. You have a different DNA sequence. You have different issues going on in your body. This is for me, and it has nothing to do with shaming or judging you, but it's what I need, and can I enlist your support?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it is about communicating from a compassionate place instead of, ordering or telling people this is it, and this is the way we're going to do things from now on, but just really explaining that, it's important for your health and you want to make these changes, and it will, in the long term, be better for everybody.
Absolutely. If we are cared for and our physical, mental, emotional body is stable and in balance, well, the whole family is going to benefit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, this kind of segues into stress, because that can lead to stress in itself, right? That wanting to change and then trying to do it while living with people and trying to figure out how it's all going to work. But the stress, it causes huge problems with our genes and the epigenetic changes. And research has actually found that chronic exposure to a stress hormone causes modifications in the DNA in the brains of mice when they did testing, and it really changes our gene expression. So like during stressful situations, we produce steroid hormones, and this can affect all the systems throughout our body. So we really need to look at managing stress with lifestyle changes, bringing in our mindfulness techniques like yoga, meditation, and breath work, because really stress is a big problem in our society.
I completely agree. I mean, when I'm on vacation, when I am not stressed out, I have no trouble eating what I decided I need to eat. Right. As soon as I get stressed, it's a cellular thing. I get hypoglycemia because my body is burning up, too quickly with all the carbohydrates, burning them because I'm stressed. And then at that point, it's cellular. I mean, I don't know what to do at that point. I'm needing fuel. So, figuring out how to pre-manage the stress and a lifestyle that's sustainable, that won't get us into that state of fight and flight.
Yeah, exactly. And stress can come in many forms. I think people think of stress, of course, with your work or stress with relationships. That's kind of a typical way we think of stress. But it can also come in how intense you work, particularly for, a person that's high in a Pitta constitution. How intense your workday is. If I talk to someone with a high Pitta and I'm like, okay, we need to bring in more moderation, we need to, work less, because that intensity, if you're burning the midnight oil working because you want to get a project done, that can cause stress in the body too.
100%. I can't tell you the number of times I'm passionate about a project and I sit down at my computer at 8 o'clock in the morning And the next thing I know, it's 4:00 in the afternoon, and I have not gone to the bathroom. I have not. My body has frozen like a piece of cement into the chair.
Oh my gosh!
I love the day. I got a lot done, and wonderful project.
Mm-hmm.
Body is not okay with what I just did.
Right. And this, I think, is where it comes to living in tune with the circadian rhythms. And I've done a whole podcast episode on that. I think it's number 8 in the podcast. But yeah, it's so important to understand those circadian rhythms and when is the best time to do your intellectual work? When is the best time to rest? When is the best time to do more creative work? Because you can't literally go from 8 a.m., say the typical Western workday is 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and just think that you're going to be focused the whole time. You know, we know that the pitta rises from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and that's our intellectual time. That's when we're really focused, sharp, and that's when we should be making decisions and doing a lot of the intellectual work. But then, you know, we've all experienced it after lunch, that we have this mind that gets a little foggy, it's not as sharp. Well, then that's the time, yes, we still have to work, but it's the time to do more creative projects or to do things that need less intensity, less intellectual focus.
Yeah, completely agree. And we just don't have those rhythms built into our Western lifestyle. But it doesn't mean that you and I and everyone listening can't structure our lives that day. That, you know, really 5 to 6 hours of hardcore work is enough.
Yeah.
Why are we trying to do 8 to 10? That's ridiculous.
I know. It's just this pressure we put on ourselves. And I, particularly in this case, being a high pitta myself, those with a high pitta constitution, we almost need a permission to stop working because we think we always have to be producing. We're driven. We're goal setters. So we're always pushing, and very aggressive about it and very intense. So we almost need that permission to be like, okay, it's okay. It's okay to stop working at this time. It's okay not to be doing really focused work all day long. You know, give your mind a break and do something that's less taxing in the afternoon after lunch when all your energy is being used for digestion and assimilation and there's not a whole lot of focus going on in the brain. So yeah, I think it's really important to get familiar with the circadian rhythms and to understand and as well give yourself permission to not be like 100% all day. It's not possible. And if you are like that all day and you're going against the energy of the day, that's what leads to stress in the body. And this is where it affects the genes and it affects your health.
You know, I'm listening to you, agreeing with everything you're saying. And I'm remembering, you know, I don't know if it was 5 years ago or something, that I felt like getting exercise and taking time to cook and sit down for a meal was a luxury. I felt like, oh, that's a waste of time, and almost resented that I had to get up from my work to do these things because they were necessary. And I have a totally different perspective today, which is I want to nourish myself. I love walking in the woods with my husband and my dog. It's not a waste of time. It actually is a sense of life.
Right.
It's a whole mindset, which is how I started this whole conversation, which is, how do we transform your life, your circadian rhythms, your relationships, your sleep patterns, your afternoon yoga nidra, 45 minutes, eat lunch, and then do a yoga nidra. And that's actually a wonderful, necessary thing to do. How do we restructure all of that? Not just, oh, I need to work out more, or, oh, I need to eat less fat.
Right.
And I think that's the beauty of what Ayurveda is teaching us, really.
Yeah, it's looking at definitely a holistic approach to looking at everything and living more. It all comes down to really living in tune with nature, I think.
Yeah.
You know, it all comes down to respecting the laws of nature and respecting that we need to have times where it's rest and digest, like after lunch, like you said. You know, I'm trying to take time away from work after lunch and do a meditation so that while I'm meditating, my food is digesting. I can tell you, it's hard sometimes to pull myself away from the computer, you know, if I'm in the middle of something, but I know it's important, rather than, you know, eating lunch and then going back to the computer and I'm trying to focus while my body's trying to digest and and I know that's causing disruption in my digestive system. Whereas if I'm relaxing and meditating, the food will digest better, and my, I will feel better in the end of the day. So yeah, I think it is aligning more of ourselves with nature.
Absolutely. And, I think one of the things that's really helping me to understand just how important it is to take a 2-minute mini breath break, or a 5-minute meditation, or a 10-minute yoga nidra. I mean, just little things like this. It's that recently I had a pretty severe knee injury that also started to seize up my hip and my ankle.
Right.
And I've been in chronic pain for a couple of weeks. And I tell you, if I take 2 or 5 minutes and do breath work or meditation, the pain stops. And I come back to my computer and stress out, and it starts again.
Yeah.
It's things like that that really help me to understand that yoga, meditation, breath work, visualization, mantra, mudra, niyasam, these very subtle tools of yoga and Ayurveda are powerful if we use them, and things really are shifting in your body and mind when you do them.
Right.
When you're healthy, you're like, oh, did that do anything? But when you literally go from, acute pain to zero pain in 5 minutes, it really hits home like, oh, this actually does change the inflammation in my body.
Right, exactly. Now, I do think, like what we're getting back to earlier, is for somebody who's just starting out in this journey, I think a reset is necessary, because it's hard to feel those subtle changes, right? If you're very inflamed in your body from stress or processed foods, and there's a lot of pains and aches or different things going on in the body, that I do think a reset is necessary. And I'm talking about like a cleanse, a complete reset to clear the body of any inflammation or any imbalances, so that, again, coming back to basics and resetting the digestive system and the microbiome, and then building back up a good, strong foundation. And then from there, when you start reintroducing not only foods, but activities, and, maybe going back to your normal routine or your normal exercise, or being around, certain people, you'll start to feel how they affect your body. But I think most people starting out in this journey need a reset first, and then
and that's what happened to me in Japan. Is I got a reset on the types of foods, around the rituals around foods, my stress level. It essentially was a reset cleanse for me. I think holidays can do that. The problem is usually on holiday we're drinking and eating, not so healthy things. Right. Fortunately, in Japan, I wasn't drinking alcohol, and I was eating mostly fish and vegetables. So
yes, I agree. I think it's necessary to have that, just going back to simplicity and bringing everything back to baseline and clearing everything out, and then going, okay, now I'm going to build my foundation back up. And this is why we do regular cleansing in Ayurveda and in yoga. Seasonal cleansing is part of the lifestyle, that we know that there's an onslaught of toxins. Some we can prevent and others we can't because they're environmental or whatever. Daily in our body, these onslaught of toxins. And so we want to prevent buildup. So we do this regular cleansing. And I know, I think I've discussed this before. I've found through regular cleansing that I've noticed over time, and this has taken a few cleanses before I really clicked with this, is like how little food I actually need, because I was a big eater before. I mean, people were like, oh my God, you eat a lot. And, I still eat healthy. I still have a good, strong digestive system. But I realize now that I don't need to eat it much. And I'm not making an effort to reduce my size of my food. But I have, I eat from a small bowl. So it's not like a big, massive dinner plate. And I'm easily now able to stop at a certain point. And that has come from cleansing, because, we say in Ayurveda, one portion is with your two hands cupped together. It's
right.
it's like a small bowlful. And through regular cleansing, I found that, it's very simple for me now to stop after one bowl, and I don't go back for the second portion like I used to do. I think that can help a lot.
you're talking about regular seasonal cleansing. I'm doing it every 12th week of a quarter. So I do 11 weeks of hard work, and then the 12th week is rest in bed, meditate, breathe, try not to schedule any work if I can.
That's nice.
And do a cleanse. And the first few that I did, they were moderately successful, but now it's getting to the point where I'm like, oh, good, the cleanse is coming, and it's getting easier, and the results are, and I'm not eating junk food the day after I get off the cleanse.
Right.
It's like my body is learning how to cleanse every 12 weeks, and I'm becoming more successful at it. So one thing I want to add is that don't just do one and say, oh, that was, that didn't work, or that didn't do much for me. It's a routine that you get into over time to reset your taste buds, to reset your microbiome, your mental habitual patterns around food, all of these things.
Yeah.
But do multiple ones. Don't try it once and then give up.
I totally agree. I think the first time you do a cleanse, it just takes off that top layer of toxins. And you get a good effect, and you feel it, right? You feel good. Your digestion feels good, and everyone has different outcomes. But I think the more you cleanse, yes, it just gets deeper and deeper. And like you now, before I was like, oh my God, the cleanse is coming. Now I look forward to it because it's like, wow, what level am I going to go to? And it's like you're peeling off, the layers of an onion. You're just going deeper each time, and the cleanse goes deeper, and the outcomes are amazing. And that the patterns stick then post cleanse.
Right. And you're going to feel better. Like I remember the last cleanse I did, after 3 days, I had no pain in my body. And I was like, oh, this feels so good. I usually have a pain in my knee or my back or somewhere in my neck. And when I was doing the cleanse, I was like, it took 3 days. And my body felt light and expansive, and I could run up and down the stairs, no problem. I thought, oh, this is how I want to feel.
Right.
It motivates you to continue those good health behavior choices all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And I agree what you said. Like the first cleanse or two, you might, when you stop the cleanse, you might go straight back into, I want my, insert whatever goodies you missed during the cleanse. And then that inflammation comes back into body and the pains and aches and stuff. But then as you go on through your cleansing, your taste buds are changing, like you said, and you're not so inclined to go back on those, quote unquote bad foods when you come off the cleanse. So I think the more you cleanse, the more, it's really instilling that feeling like, yes, this is what I want. And it's like a reminder. We need those, regular reminders. Oh, yes, I do feel good when I cleanse. Oh, yes, I can maintain this post-cleanse as well if I keep up the patterns and the daily habits, the self-care habits, and I eating in accordance to my constitution.
And then it starts to restructure your perception of your life. It starts to restructure what relationships you're willing to be in because you start to see your triggers. It restructures how much you work because you realize, sitting at my desk does give me inflammation, 10 hours a day. And this is why it's so hard to define the scope of practice for yoga therapy and or Ayurveda, because it's really lifestyle medicine.
Oh, yeah.
And so the nutritionists are like, wait a minute, you're talking nutrition. And the psychologists are like, wait a minute, you're helping with health behavior change. And the PTs are like, wait a minute, you're working with, pain in your knee. Right. And yes, we're working with all of those things by reorganizing your environment and your life. Like I said, lifestyle medicine, which essentially helps you to reorganize your inner way of being within you, so that you do perceive the world differently and you do make better choices and you do. We're kind of like a 5,000-year-old health coach, really.
Right. There you go.
You and I are 5,000 years old, but the techniques we're using are 5,000 years old.
Yes, exactly. They've stood the test of time. And, earlier in the conversation, you were talking about, measuring out your food and writing it all down. And Ayurveda takes, a more holistic approach and yoga as well. And it's more simplified. And again, it's not about zooming in, but zooming out and looking at the big picture. And I say that a lot because I think if we get stressed on certain points and, how much protein am I having and how much, fat am I having and am I following this exact diet, I think that causes stress and inflammation in our body. I think, once I started taking this more relaxed approach to eating and, I'm not counting calories. I don't even look at calories anymore. I'm just making sure my meals are balanced, but I don't obsess over it. Then I was more in control of my weight and my mind was clear because that stress was causing extra problems in my life.
Well, I want to ask you about this. I read something recently that was just kind of mind-blowing to me, and maybe you can help flesh this out. It's around ojas. Mm-hmm. And basically it said that the way we build our ojas is to bring more beauty and more fun and more joy into our lives, and that is one of the biggest builders of ojas, and that actually will help us digest our lives, our emotions, mm-hmm. and our food by bringing in more joy and more free time and more connection. So what do you think of that idea that having more joy and fun is actually essential to health?
Absolutely. I agree. Well, just look what you said when you're on vacation or when any of us are on vacation. We know we can eat those foods that sometimes maybe at home will aggravate us, but we're on vacation and we're in a good mood, we're relaxed, and it's a different experience in our body.
Right.
And I want to actually explain ojas for those people who are not familiar with it. Now, according to Ayurveda, we're gifted with a precious 8 drops of ojas that's contained in the heart at birth, right? So ojas is like our prime energy reserve of the body. And actually it's said that when these 8 drops of ojas are extinguished, our life expires. So pretty important. But when ojas is plentiful, we have a strong immunity, we have a healthy reproductive tissues, we have lots of patience, we have good energy. We're basically sattvic. We're selfless. We're very selfless. We have lots of compassion, lots of love. So yeah, I agree. I think having fun in your day and scheduling time to have fun and taking time off and not working all the time is so important. So important. And I think as important as our exercise and our other self-care practices is to take time with friends and to nurture relationships and to schedule fun.
Yeah, I mean, that is like a brand new idea to me, that by scheduling fun, mm-hmm. I actually it's necessary to healthy life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it should be one of the priorities, that we're not just working and then going home and that's the same routine day in, day out, that we're having new adventures, that we're trying different things, like you going to Japan, and this whole world is opened up for you now because you've seen a new way of living, a new way of showering, a new way of eating that's transformed you. And that we get out of our usual samskaras, our usual habits. So I go to this store and I eat here, and that you try new things and be adventurous and be courageous. And curiosity will keep us young and keep us active and also keep us creative, I think.
And help us to maintain these new health behavior changes, mm-hmm. right? That as soon as we get in a rut with samskaras or habitual patterns, we're doomed. Yeah. I think we have to keep it fresh. We have to keep ourselves open and receptive and joyful.
Right.
That's a huge part of maintaining health behavior change.
Absolutely. And when we're talking about these changes and cleansing and routines and habits, and what I want people to understand is it's not strict. It's also about being flexible in life. having fun and being flexible, having your good daily dinacharya, the self-care habits, having living in tune with the circadian rhythms, but also being flexible that if you go out and have fun and you're having a night of pizza and wine, that you're not stressing about it. And we've said this before, but I think it's important, and I want to stress it again, is that it's cool. Let's go out and have some, pizza and some drinks and enjoy it. And then the next day you get back on your good habits. But I don't want people to think that it's this really strict approach to life. Life should be joyful, and we should schedule play and schedule fun. And life is amazing and wondrous, and we should always be curious.
I think that's a great note to end on, because that's really what I'm discovering, and I want to share with you after this wonderful trip to Japan, is that having joy and laughing and experiencing new things and just really being in the moment, that's what we're here to do. And I, for one, have not done enough of that the last 15 years. And I am committed to bringing more of that into my daily life, not just because it feels good, but because it actually will contribute to, my health when I'm 60, 70, and 80. I truly believe it.
Oh, absolutely. I just heard this week, what are the 5 regrets of people when they're dying? I wrote them down because I want to remember them. Number 1, I wish I had lived my life and not what others wanted. Number 2, I wish I hadn't worked so much. Number 3, I wish I had the courage to express my emotions. Number 4, I wish I stayed in touch with my friends. And number 5, I wish I had allowed myself to be happier. Et voila.
We all need to take those and write them down in beautiful handwriting and put it in a picture frame and put it on our desk. Yeah. Because we have to remember that this is what people regret when they're on their deathbed.
Yeah. Because we can just be so much head down and plowing through life and in the struggle of it. And, we have to take our head up and breathe sometimes and be like, wow, this is amazing. Look at all this nature around us. Look at all these people, all these different experiences I may have the opportunity to have every day. And we talked about this before, the excitement of going out every morning, be like, oh, what's going to happen today? Who am I going to meet? Who am I going to talk to? What experiences am I going to have? Be curious, be playful. And I think we'll leave it at that, Amy, and ask people, suggest maybe that you schedule play into your week. How are you going to schedule play into your life? And put it in your diary, put it on your schedule. Fun time, play time. We schedule all those appointments, put some play in there.
We have to have blocks of play every single day in our calendars.
Yeah. Yeah, like right now, I swim every morning here, and, we do our swimming and our exercise, and then at the end, we just lay back and just play around in the water for a while before we get out and get on with our day. But, it's just so fun to have those periods where we work and we're serious, we're focused, and then just to have time when you just do nothing. You just chill, lay back, and look at the clouds for a while.
Okay, we are coming to the south of France to play in the Mediterranean with you.
Good, I hope so. We're going to definitely be doing retreats here. It's in the works, right, Amy? We're manifesting it.
We are manifesting it.
We want to meet you guys out there in the south of France, and we'll manifest some yoga and Ayurveda retreats here. It's going to happen.
For lots of play. I love that.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Amy, and I look forward to chatting with you soon. You take good care of yourself.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye. So if after all that talk about resetting your digestive system and doing regular cleansing, you are ready to take the leap and do a reset or a seasonal cleanse, I actually have one coming up September 27th. It's going to be a group online seasonal cleanse, and this cleanse is individually tailored to you. So when you purchase the cleanse, it comes with a 90-minute online consultation with me, so I can determine your birth constitution. I can also see if there's a current imbalance we need to address in the cleanse, and then I will tailor the food, I will tailor the meditation, the breath work, the yoga, and anything else I feel that you need in order to
to help bring your body and mind into balance. Just click on the link in the show notes and there will be a video there giving you more details, and you can also register on that page as well. And once you register, then I will be in touch to schedule your 90-minute consultation. Now, I'd advise you to do this soon because I can only take a number of people on the cleanse. I only have so many consultation hours. So if you're ready, go ahead and book it, and then we can schedule your consultation and get you ready for the cleanse. Okay, thank you for tuning in, everybody. Take good care of yourself and be well.